Hello, and welcome to this week's Talking Stick Show. So my name is Dale, and I welcome you to this space of all spaces as we talk about the ancestral avoidance of responsibility. What are you avoiding? So firstly, I'd like to welcome our special host this afternoon or morning, wherever you are watching this. We welcome Laura Massey. Hello, sister.
Hi, bro. Hi, Dale. Hi, everybody. Great to be on again, and what a great topic.
And great to have you on, sister, again.
Thank you.
And we have Lily. Hello, Lily.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here. I'm really excited to talk around this subject. It's a really great one.
Great to have you on, sister. And we have Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, everybody. Very honored to be here and to be invited to talk about this. It's great.
And we have Mary. Hello, Mary.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here. Sorry about Adumra, just with something wrong with it on my laptop, but you'll all hear me anyway, so that's the main thing.
Great for you to be here, sister. So this show, we're going to be talking about the ancestors. We're going to be talking about the grandmothers, the grandfathers, and we're going to be talking about ancestral avoidance of responsibility and what does that mean for us. So just a little bit of backstory before we fully begin. So I was in an Aya journey, a grandmother journey, a few weeks ago, and one of my first medicine journeys. As soon as I took the brew, drank it, the medicine, straight away the grandmother said to me that we're going to show you your ancestral avoidance of responsibility. And they kept telling me it and saying it, and I was like all the way through them, they just kept saying it. And the first time was basically I was shown loads of different things in my life and how karma attached to so many things, how ancestral karma attached to so many things. So I was seeing an example would be I was seeing my children on the phones, on the iPads or on the TV, and they were showing me that this is not about the remembering, this is forgetting us and so on. And I was showing all different aspects to me where I was avoiding my own ancestral karmic responsibility by not bringing this remembering frequency through, not being the peacekeeper, not being the peacemaker. So they were going through all different aspects of my life, and I was seeing my programs at play. I was seeing all different weird programs coming into me, and all these programs was ancestral karma. And it was where I wasn't being responsible for my own awareness. I wasn't being responsible for doing my inner work in certain areas of my life. So this is the inspiration from my medicine journey and from my journey in the grandmother land, seeing the grandmothers, speaking to them. And we've got great grandmothers here as well. We have Laura, Mary, Jen and Lily. What a show we're in for today. So Laura, do you want to take us, start us? Where do we want to go with this show?
Thanks, Dale. It is so easy in this day and age to get distracted. And I know that myself. And really, when you're on this journey and you make a choice to do this journey, it is your responsibility to watch out for those distractions. We're here now with our feet on this earth to bring in to iron out some of the karmas, aren't we, that we've carried forward from our ancestors. And we sort of owe it to them, the good, true and beautiful ancestors, because they came before and paved the way for us to do this work. So those of us who are ready and willing and want to step up and do their great work, then we really need to get out there, not be hiding, to actually go out there and do it and walk our talk and give the ancestors, I always use the words relevance now, but because they have been here and been doing their great work and setting things up for us, I feel it is really a responsibility. Once we have that level of awareness, it really is a responsibility to step up and do it. And it is hard. It is tough. There's people who are trying to do it who are in survival. We have busy lives and families and so on, but it can be done. And the thing about it is, once you do make that decision to do that, you do get help from the unseen. You do get help from the grandmothers. And when you're on that celestial medium path, and you're calling in your grandmothers and your peacemakers and peacekeepers. There is some incredible support there, and you're co-creating with them, so we can get these energies of the fifth world of peace. So we can set up lodges, dreamtime lodges for peacemakers and peacekeepers, and do this great work that they set out. They set out the path for us, and I think it is our responsibility to do that. I mean, that's just the tip of it, Dale.
Beautifully put,
for where
sister.
I can see it, yeah.
And that's it, that connection to that we have a responsibility to remember them. We have a responsibility to pass the teachings down to the future generation. We have to sing the songs of remembering again. So long the grandmothers and the ancestors have been forgotten in so many different ways and aspects in our life, and this can appear in even the irrelevance of phones and technology and so on, that we're so de-evolved with the ancestors. And what I felt as they were communicating to me was all they want to do is be remembered, and there's a path to forgetting, there's a path to remembered, and they were showing me every single bit of my life where they were forgotten. And it was quite sad at one point. There was an area where my bedtime routine, I say a prayer, but I wasn't doing enough dream work to link them, the children's, to the grandmother bridge to allow them to go dream with them. And they were showing me this. They were like, the kids have got too much technology before bed. You need to separate them, get them off the technology earlier, tell them more stories, long stories, and allow their mind to disentangle, and say to them, I am now disentangling you from the TV, everything going on, and I'm allowing the grandmothers and setting up, I always say, a rainbow bridge. I like to visualize rainbow bridges over the heart as they go to sleep. And they were showing me, they were like, you've been forgetting for so long, and there are children. And I was like, my little ego mind was like, they're my kids though. And I was like, no, you're our children. All of you are our children. You're mine. I love you, and I love your children. We look after them. And they were like, we see everything. We fucking see everything. There's not one thing we do not see in your reality. And I was like, oh, it was a holy shit moment, but what fucking really powerful medicine moment. So I'd like to bring Lily into this now. So what is your understanding of grandmothers? And let's get everyone's take of the ancestors and what they see them as.
I think the interesting thing for me that's coming out when you're speaking is how, when people are not on that path of remembering yet, when you haven't taken that step to the other side, how do people make that first movement to the other side? Because for me in my life, I can look back now and see that I've been guided very heavily by grandmothers, and I didn't know in that instant. In that instant, it felt like an incredibly visceral gut feeling of, I've got to do this, and I have no idea why. And every single one of those choices that I made, and every single one was, I'm petrified. I don't know if I can do this, but I know I have to for some reason that doesn't make sense now. Every one of those choices has brought me to the life that I'm in now, where I'm really aware of making these choices aligned with my ancestors and aligned with my highest power. But it took all of those choices in relative unawareness to get to this point of awareness. And I just find it interesting in asking you guys advice you would give people to start to be able to be aligned, start to be able to make those choices. Like for the first time, if someone's never spoken to their ancestor or doesn't know how to communicate, where do you even begin? And for me, I would just say, for me personally, it was a bodily experience of surety and clarity, and this very, very visceral need to move there, even though there was a lot of fear. I hope that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. And that's it. It's how to gauge to them. And something else I got from the medicine journey was, it's singing the songs of remembering is one of the most important. Telling the stories. They don't have to be very impactful stories, but they have to have a level of teachings of them in combined with love, and how much they are supported, because everyone here is a grandmother. Everyone at this show and everyone listening is a grandmother. A grandmother is love. Grandmother is a love teaching. It's an expression. And then you go into the grandfather teaching, which is more of the teacher role, the grandfather. So again, who would like to answer that question? Lily was talking, what is the best way to start your connection to them? Jen, do you want to come in?
When I started feeling the calling, the way it came to me, my my mother's mother, so my grandmother on my maternal side, had passed a few years before then. And I took a class on learning how to read the Akashic records, and every time I would open them, I would feel her hand on my shoulder. And so that really gave me like a soft connection back to my lineage. And what she told me to focus on first was understanding the alignment of the earth and the sun. So pay attention to where the sun rises as the season goes and where it comes back. And like that orientation really helped me place myself in the universe. And that was really expansive to see like how small I am and how big I am at the same time.
Beautiful, Jen.
Oh,
Beautiful.
that's beautiful. Mm.
And Mary, what's your take on the grandmothers then, and your connection to them?
Well, just listening to everybody there, I do find the grandmother energy fascinating, and I'm a grandmother myself. I started to think about the difference between me as grandmother and me as mother. And when I visit my grandchildren, I can see that my daughter actually is still pressurized, to do the daily chores with them, to get them to their music, to get them to their football, all of that, just like I was. But I do, as grandmother, have an easier kind of relationship with the children, and I don't feel any pressure. And the children love being around me, the grandchildren, because for that reason. And I remember having that with my own grandmother, actually. She was like that too. She was the person energy healing. I had a very bad migraine once, and she asked me if I would mind if she blew some kind of air on my head, and she had this particular point. Now, I don't know was she ever trained as a healer, but she did this. I allowed her to do it, and she did it, and it did clear my headache. And I found that interesting. I just find that whole concept, even the name, grandmother, like even in itself, there's something in that name, isn't there? They're like the wise one. They're like somebody who has walked the path and been down the road before, and they can see things that younger mothers will get all hot and bothered about, that they're not that important. And I think in that actually is the alignment to the energy of grandmothers, in that very just simple process of being able to step back a bit and allow the energy, rather than be so busy with the things that the young mother has to do. And I'm not saying she shouldn't do it, but I think grandmother has a very special place in our lives, because she holds that space and that energy in order for the child to develop and grow. And the child will often go to the grandmother with problems that they may not find it as easy to talk about, to other people, because they actually can feel the openness of the grandmother's energy, and they can feel the love and the non-judgment in the grandmother. She's going to hear them with love.
Beautiful. Mary.
Mm.
And so, Laura, where do you want to go from here with the grandmother, Mary, as well? Just something to add, that it's funny how they call them the grandmother, isn't it, when you're closest to being a grandmother? In not a bad way, but it's like you call that title of grandmother because you've gone through that set of experience of knowingness about the road of the red walker, about the journeys you had as a child or the errors you had in time, where you've led into this person where you're towards the end part of your life, but you have the wisdom, you gain that knowingness of being a great grandmother and having that experience to pass on to the children, pass on the stories and so on.
And that is absolutely it, isn't it? So, as you were saying earlier, we all have the capacity to be grandmothers of the now, and recognise we have that responsibility. And if we actually have grandchildren like Mary and I, then fabulous. And I loved what Jen was saying, like working with the compass and things like that, because it's one of the things that, or working with the, the directions where the sun comes up and goes down. Because it's one of the first things, I've got 4 grandchildren, and it's one of the first things I did with them. And it's our connection to the natural world. That's at the basis of all of this, as Jen was saying, is our connection in working with Earth's natural energies, which we have, unfortunately, with the system, set up as it is tried to cut us off off from that. And that is one thing, whether you're male or female, whatever age you are, there is the grandmother of the now responsibility in working with the children now is to try and reconnect them to working with the elements. And so, Lily's, probably knows sort of better than most of us, because if her Facebook page is anything to go by, then you have a wonderful, natural environment for your children, don't you?
Yeah.
Tell us how that works, with the children and what they get out of it.
I mean, for me, just like mirroring what Jennifer was saying, when my guidance from the ancestors started to really, really take off was when I actually became pregnant with my first child. And looking back at it now, I see that in that becoming pregnant, becoming with child, becoming mother, I really feel that oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, someone's just come in. Maty's just in the background.
I feel like that creatrix inside me was formed from that having child in me, and that's when I had a huge amount of guidance from the ancestors. They guided me to learn biodynamic farming, which is where you farm or garden aligned with the planets and the seasons and the eclipses. So in learning that, I had to place myself on the earth, learn all about astrology and the planets, and align myself with the seasons in a really in-depth, quite complex way. And in doing that, I had this really, really strong groundedness into the earth in a way that I didn't have before, with quite a lot of information behind it as well, and knowledge of the different qualities of the planets. And through doing that as well, I also learned how to grow food for my children and grow a vegetable garden. And that's now expanded to an agroforestry orchard, a cutting garden for flowers, a bee garden, and a natural dye garden, so that I can make my own fabrics with plants that I grow myself. So it's become this whole alchemical process where I can feed my children, make our clothes. And I remember the first time I started, I had all these seed packets and I was like, I don't know what to do. I've never done anything of this. No one's ever taught me. But it was all so easy. As soon as I planted the first seed, I was like, oh, okay, this is absolutely fine and totally easy. And then watching my children grow up in the gardens that I've planted, I sit there watching them eating from the vegetable patch and playing with the flowers, and I just want to weep because it's so beautiful. I can't imagine any more beauty. I can't imagine it.
Incredible, sister. And that's it.
Yeah,
it's
beautiful.
that link to the land and about understanding karma. And everyone here has their own karma, their own ancestral karma, and making it aware that we need to hold this peacekeeper and peacemaker frequency, because there are ancient karmas out there of war. There are ancient karmas of people battling, and see if you have a region like I lived in Harrogate, there was a lot of ancestral karma there, and the people I worked with, there was ancestral karma interfering with events and stuff I was aware of. But for me, it was about understanding that I have to be the peacekeeper in this situation. And I then looked at the Talking Stick show, and even this show is a resolver of karma. The show is dedicated to resolving people's karmas together. So we all come together and we're in this peace frequency, we're sharing this experience together, and we're emanating peace out, that we can all come together, we can all heal, we don't have to judge each other, no one's on higher or lower than each other, everyone has their own say. And it's so beautiful to be aware of that, of how being a peaceful person can be such an honouring to the ancestors, because it's our responsibility to be peaceful. That's the truth of it. It's our responsibility to forgive, let go, not have war. Obviously, we don't let those idiots in our life and allow them to come in and just say, yeah, I forgive you, come into my life. There has to be some sort of, obviously, boundaries. But in the sense, forgiveness is one of the most important things. If you're not forgiving someone, you're holding charge against someone. You have to do that in a work and have to have the responsibility to be the peacekeeper about it. Let them go, forgive them. And you're potentially going to heal thousands or millions of years of karma from doing that, or a lifetime karma you've had against each other over and over again, and you've just flipped the frequency on it and gone, aha, motherfucker, I forgive you. And it was that easy for me to find resolve of being peaceful in this lifetime again. And we all have those moments, don't we, of people who create charge within us. And it's like, there's the ancestral responsibility coming in again. I have to do my work on this now.
There's a flip side to that as well, which is that resolution is a choice. So karma is a choice. I realised this recently when I was in a job that I was in, and I realised I was having lovely experiences with people that were resolution, but it was a choice. I didn't need to be in it. So I didn't actually need to be in resolution. It was a choice to go into it. So you've got karmas and dharmas. And yet sometimes it's good to resolve, good to have this process going, but sometimes you don't actually need to do it. You need to be creating dharmas instead of karmas, instead of resolving karmas. But there are those that come up that we need in our soul's journey. And they're the obvious ones, aren't they? They're the ancestral balancing and resolution. We're just talking about that today.
That's it, man.
I think.
Go ahead, Laura.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I like that as well, because sometimes when you're not focusing on the karma and you're focusing on your dharmic journey, you're actually naturally out creating the karma anyway. So I do agree with Maty that is a great way of doing it. And I also want to bring in really good statement that Angela Tafari put in the chat. My grandchildren have grown up with cell phones and it's become an addiction, and my daughter and son-in-law will not allow me any influence over them, and they prefer the screen. It's heartbreaking to be denied that connection with them. I do totally get that, Angela, but you can work in the unseen. Let's put that to everybody here. I mean, you can do prayers for your grandchildren. And I think until they reach their proper age of sovereignty, which is probably about 11 or 12, reach puberty, you actually, as a grandmother, you have that right. You actually have that right. I mean, if you're going to do more than that, then you've got to get the permission of the parents. But my understanding is, as a DNA grandmother, you can actually do those prayers, do work in the unseen with them, go into your dream world with the intention of passing on some of the stories and the natural way of living with them. What's the view of people here?
Exactly that. And the best thing you can do for them is show them unconditional love. As long as they have at least somebody in their life that's showing them unconditional love. You can't step on your children's journey and parent for them. That's their lesson, their karmas, their dharmas. All you can be is the brightest light you can be. And that, also involves some give and take with the children, not the grandchildren, the children themselves and the way they parent. You have to not be at war. Otherwise the children will pick that up, and that's not a peaceful frequency.
Yes.
I think also
sometimes young parents can be under an awful lot of pressure themselves to conform. And, in the case of cell phones, most of the kids at school have cell phones, so they're probably getting their young kids coming home demanding cell phones and begging for cell phones and for an easier life. They give it to them. And I suppose it's just to understand that the pressures that those young parents are under, and to allow a little bit of space for them to evolve a little bit, and that you can always point out what you see as the damage that's being done by the cell phones, by the screens, and they're not all bad. They're very educational too. So they do offer a lot of educational. The old libraries are gone now. You can have everything on Google at the tip of a finger. But it's just to try and get that balance so that the young parent doesn't feel that they're not doing it right either. Because I have worked with some, and I have found that actually, that they are under quite a bit of pressure now to bring up their children in a particular way, and they don't really know what that particular way is, because it's not as simple as it was when I was young. It was just so simple. And it's not now, really. Like, there's so much more available to us now. And I think that's the challenge of it, the times we're living in and the age that we are at this time. We have so much available, and that provides its own challenge, Can we have everything? I think we can, but I think we can use it in balance and with wisdom. And I think that's where the grandmother's voice comes in. And for the young parent as well as the young children, as the grandchildren, just to offer that little bit of space and see what happens.
Beautiful, Mary. And that's it. It's being responsible, allowing them to still go on the iPad, still go on the games, but you have to have responsibility in how much time they have, the separation between when they go to sleep. And one of the things the grandmother showed me was the children. I looked into every single one of their dreams. They were showing me what the dream world looks like in Heath's, Marley, and a lot of them were the games or the thing, you know, the YouTubers they were watching. And they were just, as they were showing me the dream worlds, they were saying, forgetting. This is what's making us being forgotten. And then I realized that I have to have responsibility before bed to read a story to them. And I sing now. I sing love frequency to them, and I sing grandmother songs. So my responsibility to them is not to allow them to go and dream this negative dream, the false dream grids and so on. My responsibility as a father is to allow them to dream with the grandmothers, the ancestors, the aurora borealis and so on. So I was quite like, oh fuck, I need to sort my shit out a little bit. so now I go up and I spend time with them. I spend 15 minutes, an hour before, just sat down talking to them, looking at them, loving them, just allowing a loving energy to surround them. And as I speak and say my prayers, I go, I just allow you all to be surrounded with my love because I love you and I want you to sleep with this love to protect you. And I could see all these little programs in me which were stopping me from doing it right before because of my father, because of my mama and so on. So yeah, really cool.
Dale, too, preserving the innocence in the child. I know I was saying it on a previous show, that it's one of the real important roles of a parent to preserve the innocence in the child so they can see the goodness in the world. And, you know, by giving them the little stories. And one thing that mine used to love when they were young was when I'd tell them their own story. You know, I would tell them it was a bright sunny day, it was the 18th of May, and, you know, I was about to go to the hospital, and they would love to hear that story. And they'd love to hear it so many times, and what happened when I was born, and did people come in to see me? And because really, do we ever hear that bit of our story? We don't really, when you think about it.
Lily, you had something you were going to say, Donna.
Yeah, I feel like with technology and approaching children, I feel like being playful with it is really, really useful, and coming at it from not a place of judgment, because I feel like if you're going in with negativity towards the screen, they can feel it straight away and then it turns the whole thing nasty. But if you try and engage with the beauty of what they're engaging with, so are they watching dance videos or are they doing Minecraft, which is building, can you play it with them? Can you then direct it to Lego or building outside? Because their innocent playfulness is finding their passion online as well. So rather than just saying no, try and play video games with them, watch a cool movie with them, and ask them, okay, what is it about that superhero that you love? Shall we play superheroes? You know what I mean? And find the mythic quality that's in all of the stuff that they're engaging with. Because our kids, they live out in nature, but we also have screens, but we just try and be fun with it and try and join in, Yeah,
you can always send them videos of things that will spark their interest in things. So learn to work with what you have, right? So if they're interested in their iPad, then send them videos of a supernova or a meteor shower, get their interest in things.
Yeah, my kids like to watch animal husbandry, things like that, animal husbandry and stuff. And then also Roblox was a big one that they got into. And my youngest, she's 8, they're all home educated and they learn to read and write a lot later than school children would. But the 8-year-old, she was having none of it. She needed to know what was going on in Roblox, and she taught herself to read and write. She actually, and now she's fluent. She did it herself. Brilliant. So there are perks to this. They are.
Yeah,
the 8-year-old can still teach me.
Well, my son Heath, who's 9, he helped me set up the PlayStation, the new one, to the internet because I couldn't do it. And he was like, I'll do it. And he looked it up and he did it straight away. And I'm like, how did you do it? He goes, oh, it's easy. I was like, oh. I'm there slowly processing in here.
Nearly 40, Dale, nearly 40.
Windows 95.
Can I just address this question? I think it's Regina, if I've got the name right, Turney. What if positive relationships with your grandparents wasn't your experience? Okay, so what we're talking about here is the energy of the grandmother of the now, or the energy of the grandmothers, rather than... It's great if you did have a good relationship with your own grandparents, with your own grandmother. And so many of us here, I think, have established we've had, great grandmother relationships. I certainly have. So if you haven't had, that is not a limitation for you to go forward and carry forward the grandmother energy. You've just got to feel it and be it and live it and walk your talk, which is obviously the sacred neutrality, everything we've been talking about here. The loving grandmother cloak around other people and particularly children.
We are the sum total of all of our experiences and all of our lives. We all have the ability to tap into the grandmother experience if we want to. You know, even Dale and I, we can be the grandmother once in a while.
And a side story to connect into that, Maty, was, so in the chat we've been having a lot of jokes about phalluses and penises and stuff. And in my ayahuasca journey, I had a womb. And I was there and I looked down and I had this huge womb, and they were like, yep, you've got a womb. And I was like, what? I've got a womb. Then I was cooking like a week ago, and I remember it was the first time where I looked down and I felt my womb. But it was a connection, a teaching for me that I am a grandmother as well. And for me, I take on so many programs about being the male, being the provider, all of these ancestral stuff coming at me. I forgot that I am a grandmother. I was emanating love and everything, but I forgot I am a grandmother as well. So as I make the food now, I see myself as a grandmother, like that pure love, because that's all what it fucking means. It just means love, the loving frequency of grandmother. That's all what it means. And the grandfather and the grandmother are the same, but they're different teachings in a way.
Yep.
So a lot of people get sidetracked. They think grandfathers and grandmothers are separate, but there's a connection. They're all the same, and we have the male and female within us. We have the teacher, we have the lover, and so on.
Yeah, and I experience my womb when I'm doing readings. So it's not there all the time, but when I'm doing psychic work on people, it's there. It's the connection to great mystery as well, you know. Yeah. What? But it's that you know, that connection to great mystery, to great spirit. It's the womb of creation, you know. It's the infinite.
So Mary, Jen, Lily, have you got anything else to add to that? If your relationships aren't positive with your grandparents?
I had really polar examples for grandmothers. Like my mother's mother was so warm and just soft and sweet. She was just like an earth angel, right? And my dad's mom was just meaner than stink. She really was just very angry and bitter, and she liked to play people against each other. And I mean, I still loved her. She was my grandmother, but I loved her kind of from afar. But it was very polar examples. And even after her death, like she's still holding on to that resentment, like that's really holding her to the earth. And so I just send her love to heal that, and I look at it as an example for me, kind of for where I want to be and where I came from. And I think that there's an opportunity also for ancestral karmic resolution in having love for that person that didn't exactly reflect kindness back to you, but just to send them, to use that as an example to overcome that friction and just have love.
Because if you don't, then it can become ancestral haunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that too, Jennifer. And I think, as Laura was saying earlier, you know, whatever the relationship was that we experienced with our grandmothers, that energy of grandmother is pure and it's neutral, and it's always there, you know. And as children, it's funny, I think as children we do see beyond a lot. We you know, as children, because we're so pure really, and we're not tainted so much yet by the world, we can actually see the difficulties sometimes that the grandmothers have, and we can see beyond it sometimes as well. I know I used to be able to see beyond some of the difficulties between my grandmother and my mother. And both of them used to tell me stories about each other, but I never said anything. I just kept it and I was very young and I knew that I shouldn't say anything. But to be honest, I loved them both, and it didn't lessen the love that I had for them at all, because I could just see. So I think that we need to realize that children actually do have a lot of vision that we mightn't just sort of be aware of, but they actually do. And a lot of understanding as well.
And forgiveness.
And forgiveness, yes.
In oodle buckets.
Yes.
And it's always like when they cry, they cry a lot, but it's out of them now and they've got rid of it. And like a lot of adults where they suck it up and it just becomes emotional baggage and just gets stuck in the outer aura or in the skin and so on.
Well,
Spiritual hemorrhoids.
The journey through life is that you probably pick up so much. It's your energy waves maybe gets clogged and blocked through time.
And the beautiful thing about the children, I mean, my children, I've been going through much the same journey as Dale right now. It's like, where have I been so, uptight in my masculine energy and in my own journey that I've missed a whole opportunity of unconditional love that's been around me the whole time. Not that I haven't been loving, but I haven't been fully accepting and expressing it. And I could see in their faces the moment that it changed, they responded it straight back to me. It's like they've been waiting and they're like, right, Daddy, now let us teach you about new layers of love. It's beautiful. And all they require is just the smallest amount of give.
Someone mentioned forgiveness just now, and it might be slightly off topic, but Joyful has said, what about if the people you have to forgive are people that cursed you in another lifetime, that caused so much havoc in many, many different lifetimes? And I'll just say my piece here, Joyful. I would say, one, there's quite a lot of maybe charge and polarity in your actual question, and you can forgive them. It doesn't mean to say you don't do the work and you don't have boundaries and so on, but I think if you're not forgiving them, maybe it's that working for you, not forgiving them, because actually it becomes a bit of a weight around you if you don't. And that you can have some sort of, you've got judgment of what they did, fine, but use that what they did to propel you on your journey now by like forgiveness and moving forward and doing your work and your daily practices and so on to outcreate all that. We can outcreate so much with some very powerful, positive, let's say grandmother energy. We can use that for it, call in the grandmothers.
Here. And forgiveness doesn't mean that you agree with what they've done, said, or that you allow it. Forgiveness simply means that you're not allowing that charge and polarity into your field. You've managed to disable the charge within yourself because you can't move forward with that charge and polarity in you. You see, that's why you do the forgiveness. It's not to say it's okay, I love you, because how can you love somebody that doesn't show you that amount of love? It's not like that. It's a love of yourself first and foremost.
I agree with that, Maty. Forgiveness is for yourself, and it's always about yourself. And whether you can forgive or not, like if somebody has cursed you in past lives or they have done some terrible things to you, no matter how much forgiveness you throw at that person, they're still going to have to work through what they've done. And actually, it's none of our business. The only thing that is our business is that we can forgive ourselves and them in that moment. And yes, I think forgiveness is such a huge topic and such an interesting topic, and it can be a difficult process. I think at times people find that they can forgive easily one day, and they might by evening decide that they couldn't forgive anymore. And it isn't an absolute; it's a variable. But I think that the intention in general, if it's to forgive, is really what's important.
You remove a little bit of charge, then another bit of charge, and then another bit of charge in a gradual process until such a time as it's irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly.
And really, if all of our past lives are going on now too, resolving that with that person now, resolving your charge to it anyway with that person now, overcomes that lesson and keeps you from entangling with it again in this life or in the other lives that you have going on.
And what are we... Beautiful. And what are we resolving now by doing this show and teaching and helping people? Like people we've had past lives with as well, who have got some love frequency, have got some anchorage into healing. We're doing karma as well. We're fixing karma at all times.
Yeah, and Joyful, her youngest son is always telling me he dreams of slaying monsters. I don't know how to help him. Excuse me. Hey, call in the grandmothers for that. See, sometimes we go wading in with sage. I'm speaking from experience here. We do all sorts of things. We don't really know sometimes their karmic journey and what they have come in for these children. So again, prayers to the grandmothers. Beautiful to work with children. Use prayers to the grandmothers. Get their
But
help.
also, if he's slaying monsters, it's very different to being killed by monsters. I slay monsters, okay, but I'm not being killed by monsters. It's a very different thing. I don't need help. So, you know, if he's really, really distressed about it and he's waking up and he's crying, then you're going to need to do dream world clearings. You're going to need to connect him to the Aurora Borealis and find a way to do exactly what Laura just said and connect directly to the dream worlds. But if he's not distressed by it, maybe he's doing what he's come here to do. Maybe he's going to be a badass.
Yeah,
And
I've had lots of experience with my children and nightmares, and we've come up with this like a really amazing method actually to help them. And as we've done it, their dreams have actually changed, and they've had allies within their dreams that we've spoken about. So you have to gauge it on what age they are and what level you can hit at. So like my son's just turned 4, and so we do stories before bed that will enliven his dream world with powerful allies. So like for him, it's a bear, a golden bear that shines really, really bright, and we tell stories about this bear that's always with him, and how that light can defeat anything, and just keep repeating to them that they can always call for help in any of these dreams if anything comes up, and mum and dad will be there, all of your allies, all of these people, you know, heroes from their films can be there, anything that's like gauged on their level, and it actually works. It's actually magic.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Lily.
Yeah,
and
brilliant.
prayer, a good technique to add to that would be dream catchers. So having a dream catcher above the child's bed and regularly fortifying prayer to connect them to the grandmothers in that dream catcher. So each time, maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, you focus on the dream catcher, the spider web, the link to the grandmothers. You allow prayer frequency, which I do. The children have their dream catcher, one above my bed as well. And I give it anchorage to the grandmothers. I allow seeing like a spider web in the room as well. And that sacred geometry of the web itself, I allow to visualize it over the beds as well. And it's just fortifying prayer, allowing rainbow bridges to come through the bed. Prayer is one of the most powerful, potentest ways to clear children's dream worlds, by allowing a regular process, a regular dedication of seeing a space and allowing you to alchemize it with the very essence of being a peacekeeper and a peacemaker. So yeah, that's a nice little technique to use there as well.
And occasionally
getting them to make the dream, Maty, getting them to make the dream catcher as well. I did that with my grandsons. I mean, it's, you know, you can find out how to do it online. They love doing it, and we used willow from the tree out the front, and yeah, as soon as they could sort of start being creative like that, we did that. And ancestral offerings too. They seem to do this so naturally, children, don't they? They seem to do it naturally.
And you also just bear in mind that sometimes, even with all of this, if you do all of this stuff and then there's the occasional nightmare, you're not doing anything wrong. You can't be too serious about it. Obviously, regular night terrors need addressing, but the occasional nightmare, especially when the sun is doing what it's doing at the moment, sometimes you're just going to go into those types of realms, and that includes children. One thing that children do struggle with, though, is the fact that their dreams can generally be adult subject matter, which confuses them.
And they can pick up a lot of this. Again, comes back to ancestral responsibility on the parents of who they're living with. If their parents are avoiding shit or not being truthful about how their interactions are, it completely fucks up the children's dream worlds. And the children are dreaming and realizing there's a disalignment going on. It's happened to me before many times in my life when I had a lot of shit going on a while ago. The kids' dream were really being affected because me and my wife weren't resolving we were avoiding the ancestral responsibility.
Yeah, they pick up all that psychic energy, is what it is. They have to pick up and try and clear that psychic energy.
I had an interesting experience with my son again. So there was one night he had a nightmare, and my husband, he helped him through working through it, and we were like, why did he have that nightmare? So I went into ceremony to ask. And I was shown that nightmare came about to have the resolution with his dad. And then I saw him as an adult going in a ceremony himself, like maybe he had taken psychedelics or something, and something bad had come into vision as an adult man. And then he had this tool in the back of his mind to deal with it. And that was why he'd had that nightmare, because then he learned that tool that was stored away for when he's an adult. And I was like, oh my God, it like changed everything. It was so beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Anything anybody wants to add about the children's dream space and even our own space to link us to the grandmothers when we sleep? Again, going back to what Maty said, Aurora Borealis. So the second medicine journey I did, as soon as I took the first cup of I won't say the full word just in case it gets banned, I'm sure it won't, but I know what they're like. As soon as I took the second cup on the second night, I went straight to the hub of interconnectivity, and I asked Andrew to confirm. I was like, was this the ancestral world I went to? And it was straight into the Aurora Borealis, the dreaming mind of the earth, and I could see the energy was so, as I was in there, it was so high frequency, it was so hard to bring it back and fully remember everything about what I was seeing and so on. And yesterday I had a mentorship student who towards the end, I brought in the grandmothers, which I'm doing a lot more in the psychic surgery sessions now. And I was over, it's like, as I connected to that grandmother energy, it's so high frequency. It fucking really is. Like, I was so hungry after. I was like, because I was speaking to some other like off-world beings last week, but as I connected to the grandmothers, I'm not saying there's any hierarchy, but it was a different frequency. It was like, I was like, holy fuck. And afterwards I was crying and he was crying. I was like, I'm just gonna have to kind of like ground myself now.
Because the grandmother energy isn't just grounded into this planet. It's we're working at galactic universal scales, and that goes for everything. I'd like to give one little word of advice for people. When you find yourself in a dream world that you know is a hell realm or a negative dream world, as long as you can remember a part of it, a piece of it, or just an image, then you can completely destroy that world. So you'll find yourself waking up and then going back in, waking up, going back in. You can use any form of like weaponry or imagery to smash, break, destroy, or blow up that realm. And that's something that you can do with children as well. Obviously, you don't want to get too violently descriptive, but they can make it into glass and smash it with a hammer. All they need to be able to do is visualize that world or any of the beings in it, and then smash, 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 smash. And that will actually destroy that realm.
Let's see if we can help some of the people here. So,
there was a question earlier, Laura. A lady was saying, how do we sing songs for the grandmothers?
Oh,
so
yes.
I highly recommend for you to, first of all, is go onto Amazon and type in grandmothers Native American books. And there's hundreds of grandmother stories about how the storyteller medicine and how it connects them to the grandmothers and so on. And as well, there's loads of songs as well. If you just type in songs of the grandmothers on Google, you'll get thousands of them. They're all out there. And you could even make some your own. Be creative in yourself. How can I sing a song which really resonates to me and my frequency and my relationship with the children? And I do that. I sing songs just out of a flow, where I'm talking about love, going over them with love, how much I love them, how much the world cares for them, and so forth. It's just all about trusting yourself, being responsible, and allowing yourself to expand through knowledge of researching and so on.
And if you speak light languages, do a light language lullaby. It's beautiful. Even adults love light language lullabies.
I just wanted to say as well that the lullabies and the storytelling that the grandmothers can do with the children can also help to form the dream world, for the children in their sleep. And it can actually create beauty in the dream world, because for the child, they still haven't the vocabulary to be able to describe what it is they're dreaming about, unless it's a monster. But if it's something else, the grandmother, through the storytelling and the singing, can actually enhance that for the child. And it's just something that grannies do without even realizing what they're doing, because it is quite profound, actually. That's why people do that, I think, with their children at bedtime. They always like to bring them down, relax their energy, read them a lovely little story, sing them a song. And there's more to that than just the story and the song.
And I would make it funny too, make them laugh.
Yes.
Nothing diffuses the oogie boogies better than laughter.
Yes. Yeah.
They were laughing at me loads. Literally giggling their ass out about my psychic surgery stuff, and I was like asking them questions, and they were just literally taking the piss out of me as well. And they were like, just saying, you make us laugh when you do psychic surgery, where you start laughing because of some of the stuff you do. We're just like, how has a human being done this? And they all just laugh to each other like, look at this guy go. We're like, yes, motherfuckers.
That's the best thing, isn't it? The laughter.
Yes, yes.
really, in that. So let's see. My daughter saw my mother in a dream and asked her for blessings, and she cursed her instead. I have been very disturbed since then. I'm not sure what to do about it. Nafunji Malene, sorry if I haven't said your name right.
Prayer ritual ceremony.
Anybody got anything to add to that?
What was the question again? Sorry, Laurie.
Find it so I can read it.
Is somebody's daughter saw their grandmother in a dream and asked for help, and instead of help was cursed.
Right.
So again, that's ancestral cursing.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's the same process, revocation, invocation, prayer, ceremony, all of those things, but not just random. You guide it, laser focus it on the issue at hand. So you can revoke any contracts that were agreed. You can go into that dream world, destroy that dream world. You can pray to the good and true ancestors and the grandmother spirits to come with you and help to remove this curse.
Yes, I was going to say that earlier too, and Maty, about the dream world. That's something that, as in the grandmothers of the modern day, we can teach the grandchildren that. We can teach them how to change the ending to a dream. We can teach them how to, as Maty was saying there, in that case where the grandmother or the mother cursed the child, we have the power to change all of that in real time, if you want to call it that. So it's something we can pass on. Well, like for the modern day grandmothers, like my grandmother wouldn't know that or be aware of that, but we are.
And get the child to get the child to make a soup with you, and put the contract revocations, invocations that you wrote into the soup, and then offer that to the ancestors. I mean, that's incredible, powerful alchemy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, all put crystals around the bed. I know someone else was saying there, but
Yeah, everything, all of it.
Good old crystal, all of the practices that you know, and you can learn more.
And this connects to it as well as inner work and having a schedule of doing inner work with different varieties, always being that peacekeeper, always clearing yourself. You have to be responsible for that stuff. And if you are one step into spirituality, it's hard to do that because you're kind of battling against yourself at all times. If you're one of those people who goes to a meditation once a month, comes out, listens to a show and so on, I'm not judging you, but I'm allowing yourself to see hindsight and foresight of how you can get yourself out of repetition and karma and curses is by having an inner work schedule where you have many varieties, regular ceremonies, regular purification of your life. You'll outcreate all that shit really easy, and you'll be able to laugh at it as well and go, how fucking easy was that?
Yep. And there are people out there, Dale. There are people out there, aren't there, that are dealing with things like ghosts and low-level entities. I mean, even demons. Demons are a terrible, destructive thing to have in your house, in your home, or in your children. But ghosts and things like this, people that are allowing these types of energies to ruin their lives. And you know, Dale, it's like swatting a fly. The truth is, for someone who has that behind them, it's just like swatting a fly, yet you allow them to dwell in the home and ruin your life year upon year upon year. And it really does come down to practice.
It's
Absolute
our lack
practice.
of understanding the unseen world as well.
Very much
isn't
so.
it? You know that. And so, how do we call in the grandmothers from Lillian? How would we call in the grandmothers? How would you do it, Jen?
I would, with a child, I would try to make a game of it. And so, what do you want the story to look like? And write your own story about it. And then bring that to, make an altar outside, or bring it to something that belongs to women in that lineage. Make a puzzle out of it. Do something that would make it fun to remove the hurt feelings of that experience and change the narrative to something that has a positive outcome.
Beautiful. Lily?
I think for me it's really using your intuition and trust, like the unique quality of your own grandmothers and grandfathers, and then trusting the images and things that come to you in the moment and acting upon them, knowing that it will work, and that it's a layering process. So at the beginning it could feel overwhelming or daunting or like I don't know where to begin, but if you just trust yourself and ask the question, what do my grandmothers want today? And it could be a color or a food or a smell or an action or a dance, just do it and see what happens. And the results are miraculous. And that's really the beginning of working with your ancestors. I think is really like layering that trust quality, because that's all it is. They're working through you.
Yeah, totally.
They're there. Wherever you are, that's where they are. There is no separation other than in your own mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Mary?
Yes, Maty has kind of said it there. I just think they are there, and I think it's actually being aware of their presence. And I don't know. I was going to say, I'm not sure that they need anything from me. I think I might need something more from them. And it's just to recognize that, and just they are there to help, but we do have to ask for it, because they're not going to interfere.
Yeah, and you can do that in a myriad of different ways, whatever way you want to express yourself. I feel, whenever I feel the grandmothers, I feel like a shawl on my shoulders. It's like they'll come up and they'll lay a shawl, and then I feel that grandmother energy coming in. But it's different for everybody.
Yeah, here's a different one. Look, if you do your family tree, so I'm really big on my DNA ancestry. I absolutely love it. So I can list a lot of my grandmothers by name simply by pulling them from my family tree. And I will take a list out to a big fire and call them all in by name. And I also did that when my mum was alive. I did purely the grandmother lineage from my mum. So, you know, me, my mum, my mum's mum, I kept it to that lineage. And we did some wonderful prayers together. And I was actually able to lay, my mum was quite elderly and in bed, and I was able to lay with my head on her womb, if you like. And that was in the spot that I was born on, because she lived in the house I was born in still. So that just created such beautiful, just amazing energy. And I think, remember also our DNA lineage ancestors by name too. You know, I know it's also an energy, but it just adds another layer. Doing your family tree is so important, I think.
I do believe that they get as much from it as we do, and I think really believing that reciprocity helps. Because then if you feel like you're in equal exchange, then it becomes this like much more potent, really, really valuable experience.
Yeah, I agree. It is absolutely that. It is an equal exchange. It's an equal co-creation, isn't it? As if they're here, because they are.
And that expansion, as well as realizing the grandmothers are a collective as well. And that was something I went through in the grandmother journey. I was like, my dad, I was like, right, now I'm in this, I'm going to speak to my dad, I'm going to speak to my gran. And I was like saying it and trying to individual speak to them, like, yeah, we're all here, but we're all fucking a collective. like we're all speaking to you as a collective. And I was like, there was this singularity to me, an understanding of that it is like a county, a collective of them all the time working with us. It's not just, obviously you'll have sometimes one being will come in and the other being will come in, but all the time it's a collective of grandmothers. So I did DMT 10 years ago, and through my ayahuasca journey I realized when I first did it, and I was in the Aurora Borealis, the first ever time when I was addict, when I was not in a good place, and I physically saw them as a group of rainbow beings dancing around me. And I was in the grandmother land again, and I had that ha-ha moment. I was like, holy fuck, I've been here before. And it reminded me of where I was. And I looked back at that person who did it 10 years ago, and I'm like, holy fuck. There was a huge, like, beautiful, warm feeling coming through me, and realizing I'm here now, and look how fucking different I am now from doing this work on myself. It was an honoring, and they were honoring me. It was beautiful.
And that collective energy you're talking about is why so many people have that illusion of separation. Because I bet there's many people out there now that are thinking, well, I don't know that grandmother, or I don't know that grandmother. There was a question about being adopted. And that without sounding callous, that has nothing to do with it. Because it's a collective that we're talking about. So you have your ancestors, the people that you've been, all the lives that you've lived, past, present and future. Then you have your DNA lineage ancestors, which is the skin suit you're in now, the lineage of that lineage, past, present and future. Then you have ancestor beings who choose to exist in the ancestral realms purely for the sake of functioning within those realms to help other realms of experience. So they become grandmother ancestral beings, and you don't have to have relations to them. They're there to do that job. You're connecting to a certain frequency of energy, and it's always a collective. We're the ones that are not the collective, not them.
I would liken it just to being the divine feminine, right? Which can even be Earth Mother.
She can be grandmothery. Yeah, she's not that much of a grandmother when I see her, though. She's more like a hot lassie.
That's you, Dale. Maty.
Yeah.
Sorry.
She likes to come and get in my space.
I like this question. This is a good one. What rights do I have in the unseen as an aunt rather than a grandma regarding prayers, etc.?
It depends on I'd say the relationship and how old the child is and what they want you to do instead of you stepping on the journey. Just being discerning it and seeing where you can if you're going to step on the journey, don't do it. If they want to listen to you and you want to teach them about it, then do it. So all about discerning on that. And you do have a duty, really. Show them love, spend time with them, allow that frequency. Like my uncle, he's not into spirituality, but when my dad died, we love spending time with each other now. It's just so fun, and that's all we do, and that's all I see. I don't talk about spiritual shit. I just enjoy myself with him. And that's the best thing you can do, is show love, have a fucking great time, have fun. And if they want to have the teachings of the grandmothers or go to that next level, you're there ready for them to give them that information.
Yeah, not everybody has it in them.
What about in the unseen, though?
Well, not everybody has it in them to be the master. And the thing is that you can't really just go in and just start, spiritually vomiting over anybody. You have to respect free will, don't you? You have to respect free will. You have to be invited in. And I would say that would be by the parents, wouldn't you agree? I think that would be the port of call. Even if the child asks directly, I think the parents should be asked. But the greatest gift we can give, because not everybody has it in them to do this type of work, but the greatest gift we can give our whole lineage is our own healing. And again, that comes back to self-nurture, self-care, self-love, ceremony, ritual, all of the old things that we talk about over and over again, because your healing has an effect on your whole lineage, and those that will reflect it back to you will reflect it back to you.
Also, what's interesting in that, Sarah, is in the old Native American culture, it was that the mothers, the aunties, the grandmothers, the sisters, actually the women as a collective looked after all the children in a particular tribe, didn't they? So I would say that relates very much to that. So if you can feel that energy when you're in the unseen, how maybe you would respond as an aunt to children, maybe as you would respond to all children, give them as much of their own free will and sovereignty as they can have. I know it's difficult when they're younger, and not tread on their journey and just go in. I think Andrew said to me once, as a gentle wind, and I thought that is absolutely beautiful. It was a similar question I put to him, and he said, really, you can only go in as a gentle wind, asking that they find their true and proper soul families.
Yeah.
And any more than that would really be interfering. So just holding the love, really, is what it is, isn't it?
Yes.
There was a chap I know, and he'd spent a lot of time in Peru. His mother was a practiced shaman, and they spent a lot of time with the natives out there. And he told me a story once about a boy who was doing something. He wasn't a young boy, he was a young man. And he was doing something, and all of a sudden his uncle just went crazy at him, like really shouting and cursing at him. And his father was sat next to him and said nothing. And so my friend asked his father, why did you allow that to happen? And he said, well, that's his uncle's job. That's what he's there for. I'm here just to love him. to show him care and compassion. So it's interesting that some of the tribal communities actually share those responsibilities. All right, so you're the bone breaker, uncle is the ball cracker, you know. But it has to be agreed on as a social construct. You can't just go in there and start busting balls.
Yeah, what do you think of this for joyful? Or maybe going back into the moment in time where the lineage was cursed and reverse it? You see, I would rather outcreate it. I would rather move forward than go and do something like that.
You can only really do it for yourself. I had ancestral haunting, and that was my grandfather that was haunting me. And this was almost in a what's the word of the sexual ghosts? What are they called?
Incubus and succubus.
Incubus, succubus. It was almost incubus, succubus kind of expression. Very destructive, very disgusting. And I got rid of that with doing some ceremonies, writing a prayer to get rid of it, and then brewing alcohol. But of course, that didn't eradicate it from my whole lineage, but from me and mine, it has. Because that's my responsibility, not anything else.
And I had a client who had exactly a familiar situation where it was a few weeks ago, he had he's been ancestral haunted for a long time. And there was a point where I put it into a box, I put it into many different places. It started attacking me as soon as I started the session. I was being attacked, and I got to the point where I beat it up that much it didn't have any energy anymore. But every time I kept removing it, putting it into the sun or anywhere, it came back in time again. And I was like, holy fuck, this is a smart being, quite a powerful being going on. And I realized that it wasn't my job to remove this ancestral entity. He had to start doing the inner work, start being sovereign, start being the peacekeeper of his ancestral lineage. It wasn't me. And at the end, I'm thinking, oh, you've got to remove ghosts, you've got to remove demons. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes in psychic surgery and soul surgery, you're not meant to. They have to break it themselves. Obviously, I do remove stuff. I have had demons. I've de-haunted people left, right, and centre. But there are times where there'll be a marking where you're like, right, you need to learn sovereignty. You need to learn self-healing, self-nurturing. Get enough power where you're generating your own life force again. You've allowed yourself to go into trauma modes, and this is one of the openings for beings and demons and so on. If you have trauma, what you've not dealt with, that's an open doorway into them through you. So you've got to fix your own shit. If you've had really depression in the past when you're 8, 9, 10, you've got to go back and fix that depression, because the more you fortify yourself, your reality, the more those fuckers can't get into you. And they're always waiting for an aspect to come in again. And I had a big teaching and a big ego death there where I couldn't resolve everything for them. And I spoke to Andrew after, and he said, it's not up to you to do that. He has to do it in his life. He's spiritually contracted to do it. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Dale, you made him aware of it. You made him aware of it. Now it's his responsibility. Do you alchemize that shit or not?
Yes, brother.
I've had that several times in sessions too, where I'll identify something and I'll get told it's not yours to deal with. They need to deal with it themselves. And my observation so far is that it depends on the level of the awareness of the client. People that have no awareness of how to do anything their higher selves will allow more assistance, but people that really know what to do and just don't do it, then it's up to them to deal with.
Having been on the receiving end of Dale telling me this is your sovereign path, you need to do this yourself, I can be living proof of, if you actually do the work and you actually start layering up, it's the making of you in your life. So I thank Dale for telling me that all that time ago.
Then there was at one point where you fucking became the powerful grandmother you are, and I was just like, holy shit. I saw it first time when I connected to you, how fucking incredible and great and such a psychic you are, that you have such a seeing. You're able to see energy, see the other world, see the grandmother world so easily. Then it came to a point in time where you burst. It was like a burst of energy, and you were like, "Ha ho, motherfuckers!" And it's just like boom, and you were back, and all of these stuff what were entangled with you in karma wasn't able to touch you anymore. And that is proof of what the inner work and discipline, time, the amount of sessions we've had together. It must have been in the 20s, 30s or something. And it's you. I've helped you see what you can do. And that's my honor, sister. And for everyone out there, I'm not here to fix you, but I'm here to show you a way for you to fix yourself.
Yeah.
And I think for people who are just starting out and maybe have just been told this, it can seem daunting and overwhelming, but
Yeah.
just start with the first thing. Just start with the first thing and then see how you feel, and you'll feel better. And then do the second thing and the third thing, and then it will just be like a torrent. So just begin.
It's not as much work as people seem to think. People think, oh, I've got years of this. No, it's like if you apply yourself for 6 months, properly apply yourself and do a number of disciplines. And it's like you're talking how much time it takes to cook a dinner, to cook a meal once a day, every day, maybe for 6 days a week or 5 days a week. That's all you need to put into it. And you'll be surprised after months of doing it, you'll be a completely different person. But most people are just procrastinating, or they take it to these little micro levels and then they're happy with their little, like we said today, Laura, their dollar store mystical experience, you know?
Yeah, and they've got to find some joy in it too. I mean, it's got to be based on joy. And sometimes you need to recapture what first got you on the journey. What was it? Was it a sunset? Was it something mystical that happened to you that made you feel good? Was it going to a sacred site and you suddenly had this real burst of energy, or you suddenly wanted to dance or play a drum, or you felt some real deep connection? Go back to that. If you're losing your way on your journey, go back to how that felt. I have to do that now and again and recapture the absolute beauty and joy of the journey. We just need to remind ourselves sometimes.
Beautifully put, Laura. And that reminded me of today with the revocations. I did some inner work in the morning, then I did it before the show, an hour before. And as I was doing the revocations, there was a part of me which didn't want to do it. And I started laughing, and I completely flipped the frequency on it and was laughing my head off. And I was like, I fucking love this. Like, I was like, there was a part of me just saying, no, this is a chore. I meant, no, motherfucker, this is fun. All about the choice. Fun, having fun, enjoying your journey. It's all about a choice. And if you have that where the serious stick comes up your ass, you're lazy, that's ancestral karma. That's inner work for you to do and resolve as well.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that what children teach us? The fun and the joy and the play.
Yeah.
Kind of funny because, when Andrew starts talking about like ABC students, which I mean, like, I don't know, type A personality, right? But when you start thinking about doing like an hour and a half a day, where do you find the time? But then you get into it and you enjoy it, that it becomes 2 hours and 3 hours. And like, then you get told that you have to pull it back and you're doing too much and take a day off. And that becomes more of a challenge than doing the work, right? So
there's ways of like being really clever about it as well, because you don't just do this in a work and you've lost something. It's like, oh, fucking hell, I lost an hour and a half now. It's not like that. I have ways where I don't put prayers into water, or I'll put prayers into the bath water, or I'm making a very strong wine at the moment that I will then distill down into magical objects. So I put my prayers into that. So it's a way of having the prayers, having the thing, and feeding yourself back. It's a joyful expression of your spiritual, whatever it is. I don't know. There's no word for it.
Beautiful, brother.
Mary, did you want to say anything on that? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
yes.
good.
I was just thinking there as you were all talking about, for me, the connection with nature. It's kind of where it all began with me. And as grandmothers, I think that, it's something that we can pass on to the children, how regulating nature is for a child, because it does regulate the energy. Like, nature actually interacts with us when we go out into it. And that's something to pass on to the younger generation. And I do think the children in general love nature anyway. But there's so much in nature actually right there at our fingertips that has, well, for me, that has always fed me. And I just have a lovely relationship with it. And for me, that's where I do my work. I can often walk on a beach and do a little shamanic journey. And I don't fall down or anything like that. I can just do a small little journey in my imagination. But the fact that I'm on the beach, listening to the sea, lapping on the shore, it just enhances it somehow, or in a wood or wherever. So it's just not to keep repeating myself, but it's just for me that in nature is just such a tool for me to connect.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Beautiful,
Mary. Yeah, it really is. Yeah. So,
And
example of inner work, Dale, for Lillian? I'll say journaling.
yes, journaling. One of
Everyone
them.
can give something here.
Revocation,
Yeah.
trauma work, self-love, dancing,
Mm-hmm.
self-surgery, all sorts. You've got an infinite amount of things available to you at any moment, and an infinite amount of tools. Go outside. If you're one of these people who do the inner work or do your work in the same place all the time, maybe go outside and do it. Just something new all the time, so you're not stuck in this one way minded. And I think anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, Lillian, one contract revocation, one heart meditation a day, that's half of already of your 90 minutes. And that's not even a lot, you know. And then sit, light a candle, make some prayers. What's going on in your life? What do you want to say? Then you can do an ancestral offering. Just offer some food or offer some incense. This is all inner work. As long as you're doing it with the right mindset, the right mind frame, you're doing it for your own evolution. And the difference between something being sacred and not sacred is choice.
Yeah.
I think a way of like really connecting with nature, if you're just starting to go into a natural space and trying to connect to your intuition, is learning to medicine walk. And that simply is going to a space with no knowledge of where you're going to end up, and allowing your heart to lead you and seeing what comes to you in nature. And that's such a basic and easy tool, but it will really help you to really strengthen your intuition and your trust in yourself, and your inner guidance literally guiding you on this earth. And that's a really basic and easy one to, and it's amazing what happens when you do that. It's amazing what beings you come across, people you come across, trees, and how communicative the earth becomes when you do that simple practice.
But again, intention, right, Lily? Because how many people will listen to what you've just said and weaponize it by thinking that walking the dog every day is inner work?
Yeah.
You know? Come on.
Yeah.
It's all about intention.
Yeah.
You walk Charlie today. I've done minor work, guys. I looked at a tree. Hi, said hello.
Brings me back to what I was saying when Lily was first talking about her farm. You know, I have to rebuild gardens at my new house, but at my old house, I had a big garden space: rose garden, herb garden, shamanic herb garden, vegetable garden. And just that act of planting a seed and having something grow out of it that would feed me, that co-creation with Earth Mother, like, opened me up in so many ways. And that was really impactful work for me. And that grew into seeing, like, with one seed that you plant for, like, a cucumber, vine, and it grows 50 cucumbers in that season. And every cucumber has, like, I don't know, 200 seeds in it. Like that infinite abundance that comes out of nature. Just what you can create in such a small space. You can do it in a 5-gallon bucket. You don't have to have a big garden. But just that act of giving service to the earth and letting the earth give something service back to you, like that co-creation, sparked a lot of things for me.
Yeah.
Beautifully put,
I
Jonathan.
Yeah.
And I also think that it can be so simple as well. I actually find that the simplicity is what really works for me as well. And it could be something as simple as meeting a friend for a coffee. There's something about that. If I'm meeting somebody, that just is the connection, is what happens, it's the setting, all of that. It can be really, really simple. So, like, for anybody trying to find a way of starting, you don't have to look for the difficult things to do. You can just look at where the simplicity is, and you'll find your connection there.
Beautiful. And it's bringing sacred to the simple as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Sometimes you must be dynamic. Sometimes there's need for dynamic prayer and sometimes there is.
Yeah, it's just if you're starting and you're kind of wondering, some of the people there are asking, how would you start, and could you give examples of what to do and all of that. So all
that would relate to you, Sari, if I'm saying your name right, sorry.
This is why the contract revocations were so brilliant. That's why they were so reality changing, because it's not just doing what it does, it's also teaching you layers and layers and layers of prayer. Yeah.
And one we didn't mention, I think, was looking at programs as well that are running you. We get into these mental thought loops of doing things and responding in certain ways with stuff that triggers us. And it's about trying to bring ourselves back. The inner work, is it Lily? Lillian is bringing ourselves back to that sacred neutral perspective. It's just information. You don't have to act on it. You don't have to take sides. You don't have to do anything. It is just information. And it's bringing yourself back to that sacred neutral stance.
And a lot of these programs are ancestral karmas, which we've picked up from our reality around us, which we were aware of growing up, where we subtly took on these programs of the mother and the father. And I see my programs, I see a lot of my programs, and I do work on them. And there was a point in the grandmother journey as well, when people were purging. So there's a guy probably watching this show called Bob. Hey Bob, I love you. So I was doing the journey with him and another friend as well. And he did the third cup, and I watched him do the third cup, and I knew he was going to spew his guts up. So I got up and was watching him go grab the cup. He took it, and as he drank, he was spewing for about 15 minutes, like purging. And I looked over to him, and he looked at me, and I just burst out laughing, because I had a ha-ha moment of realization that all the purges were people's karma, and it wasn't theirs. It was just the karma of the past, and they were just like bleh, bleh. And I had a ha-ha moment, and I started bursting out laughing, and he looked at me. Then he said to me after, he was like, can I just say thank you for laughing at me, because it brought me out a really dark part of me. And I was like, he looked over, all I was seeing was purging, and I was like, started giggling, and he heard my like mischievous laugh in the corner, and it got him out of a darker spot. And he was like, thanks brother. I was like the reason why I was speaking about this experience was I had the ha-ha moment about everything, the programs, the purging, all of our things where we fight against each other. It's all karma, and it's about understanding we have to be the peacekeepers. And I got shown Andrew's show as well. I got shown a lot of stuff about Andrew, and I asked a lot of questions about Andrew, and they were showing me how much his shows and what he's been doing, and how honoured he is as a peacekeeper and peacemaker for always keeping that fucking frequency all the time, no matter how dark things get or people turn against him or whatever happens. He's always emanating that peacekeeper, peacemaker frequency, and him doing that is fixing the karmas of so many people. And we need more people, you out there listening. We need peacekeepers, peacemakers, not just Andrew, not just me, Maty, Lily, Laura, and everyone else. We need everyone to step up and be the peacekeeper as well.
Yeah, well said. What's our view on a silent fire ceremony with the land, just to listen and connect? You can do that if it's part of a wider practice.
Silent ceremonies are beautiful because there still can be dialogue. I have my altar is set up in my living room, and oftentimes there'll be lots of people walking around, so I will do internal prayers. It just sounds like it's a silent ceremony, but inside I'm still praying as if I would be speaking out. Other times I like to have a silent element to the ceremony, so you have a ceremony where you're saying your prayers, and then I'll be quiet and listen to the response.
And talking about Andrew, hello brother, we have Andrew Martin
to
get started on the show. Hello.
He suddenly appears.
It's Baba Rumdum.
Meow, meow, meow.
Exactly.
How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm just in between sessions here, and I figured I'd jump in and say hello and add my 73 cents to this talk. And it's about avoidance of responsibility. And why do we avoid a responsibility? It's because we don't want to hold our power. And unfortunately, we are brought up in a world to not hold on to your strength and to your power, to be a sheep in the flock, and to not be the black sheep ahead of the flock, going through the metamorphosis to no longer be a sheep. Bah, bah. Okay?
Yep.
To not let the Scotsman abuse you. Okay?
Can I ask a question, Andrew? From your perspective, what is a grandmother? So we've been talking about the grandmothers and all our opinions on them. From your perspective, the galactic historian, what would you say a grandmother is?
What is a grandmother? Somebody who has earned the respects of the ancestral spirits through direct action. Action turns knowledge into wisdom. And a grandmother is someone who's regularly turning action into wisdom when dealing with the challenges of an ancestral past affecting an ancestral present. the wisdom that can be imparted in a grandmother way. There are ways for grandmothers to do things that are not stepping on the journey of another because they're the grandmother. That position is a state of an elder in wisdom.
Yeah.
Even though it may not be respected in the modern today aspect, it is in the ancestral realm. So can a grandmother tell a grandchild, get your shit straight? Yes. Is it stepping on the journey the same way of a mother? No. There's a degree of separation there. Okay? And then there's the responsibility of reminding people to not avoid their garbage. Okay? How often does the grandmother tell the child and the mother tell the child, pick up your shit?
Mm-hmm.
Then if they don't pick up their shit and don't pick up their shit, whose responsibility is it now? The mom and the grandmother picks up everything. And after a while, the mom and the grandmother start taking on the ancestral responsibilities of those that are avoiding it.
Mm-hmm.
Until such a time they go, I have to give this back to you. That's a grandmother that knows when to use love and tough love equally.
Yeah. Has anybody seen the video that's going around of a woman that's pretending to her mum that the kids are in the back when there's no one in the back of the car, and she starts telling the invisible kids off, and the mum thinks she's insane. The grandmother thinks she's insane, but then after a while the grandmother says, oh fuck it, and she gets out and starts telling these invisible kids off. It's brilliant. Just I might as well join her.
I have not seen that one.
Oh, look out for it. Yeah, it's brilliant. The invisible kids.
Okay, we've all here avoided responsibility, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. God, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing you've learned about avoiding responsibility?
Ooh.
It doesn't go away.
Yeah, Jenny.
It gets harder. The more you avoid it, the harder it gets.
It always keeps replaying, and it's always been seen on all layers as well. Like when I first did the medicine journey, and the first thing on my first time was like, right, we're going to show you your ancestral avoidance of responsibility, Dale. We're going to go right into everything, and they were showing me all the kids' dream worlds and absolutely everything, and I was like, shit. Everything they can see all I'm doing at all times, and they were showing me so much shit, and I was like, holy fuck, look at this. I'm like, I've realized how much fucking avoidance I've got in certain areas of my life, and there was a ha moment within it, but like different programs I have from my mother and fathers, which have just been passed down, and it's like, it's you, the being of the now, who's responsible to do something about this now. And we went back to the peacekeeper and peacemaker, Andrew, and we've been talking about that on the show, and how important that marker stone in time is to resonate that frequency, because it's allowing everyone and resolving karmas on much deeper layers between ancestors and ancient war karmas and so on. So this topic is really inspiring as well. We've gone into so many layers on this show already.
And the last thing you want is forced evolution, because if you avoid a responsibility for long enough, there will be a forced evolution, and that can be a bitch.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what is our responsibility to the peacekeeper and peacemaker as an energy?
To emanate the potentials of peace on all levels.
And not emulate, not pretend it.
Yeah. It's that inner responsibility, isn't it? You must have your own responsibility first and foremost, and your own inner peace. Strive to that inner peace, and it will reflect the outer world. You will begin to emanate that, because you can't be a peaceful being if you're at war with yourself.
And that momentum of being a peacekeeper, like this show and the shows you've done, Andrew, it's having that momentum of always fulfilling, being that marker stone of emanating that peace to the future generation, that there's a way out of all of this shit. And the stuff you've done in the past, Andrew, and this is stuff I had in my journey. I was asking questions about Andrew. I was asking a lot of questions, and they were just showing me the marker stone about time of how you've kept that peacemaker, peacekeeper frequency in the up and down times of life, when shit was going on in the world, when we had the COVID or whatever we had. You were emanating and continuing on, allowing people to have anchorage into the remembering again, where they're seeing us doing these shows of remembering and being peacekeepers, and that everyone has a say around our fire. Everyone has a space if they want to come and have this space.
And also, isn't it, with marker stones, am I right in saying, Andrew, that they actually open portals to allow more ancestral energy through?
That's why they're marker stones. It's a place that opens up to the infinite potentials. So Dale, when you were asking questions about me, I'm curious. Okay, what were some of the other things that you saw as a visionary process through the medicine?
I'd say it would be about you coming into my life as a peacekeeper, and I was showing the frequency you were creating and the communities you were creating and the emanation you were creating on a bigger scale. And they were showing me not just the scale of that here in the small, but the macro scale of everything, and the amount of karmas you've resolved and in your own karmas have resolved from doing what you're doing. So I was like seeing it on a small scale, then I was like going out and seeing it on wider scales, and they were like the Talking Stick show again, huge ancestral karmic balancer, having people on the shows, and even me helping people go into a peaceful frequency where they can have a portal back to healing again. That's me resolving karma as well. So I was seeing it on many different scales upon scales. Then I was showing in the areas of my life, the children that were showing me where I've been avoiding stuff within their dreams, or I've been not, I'd say, forgetting. There's been a lot of forgetting going on with me and the children and them remembering. So I'm having to now is like before bed, I do like an hour of story. I start singing to them. I start talking more about the grandmothers. And I looked at that and I got quite upset seeing it, because I was like, shit, like how have I not seen this? That I've really avoided it. Yes, there we go. So I was like, they were like, motherfucker, we see everything. They were showing me fucking everything. They were like, we see fucking everything, what you're not avoiding. And we're all like, here you go. Can you see this? So I was like, fucking hell, I've been seen on all levels.
Now, that journey of being seen on all levels started with me at a very young age. And I had to learn to just accept it as not intrusive. Okay? And once I accepted it as non-intrusive, it's what allowed me to expand my skill set manyfold. And to have the same vision they do, and to recreate it in language here. And by doing that, that's how they're supporting me, because they know it's the language here, the colloquial now we are creating now, that absolutely affects the future generations.
Yeah.
And each and every time we are able to maintain that peacekeeper and peacemaker energy out of the emanation and not emulation, we begin to create that expanded, wide resolution you were just talking about. And coming to work with you guys and then saying, set up the show, put it on the links, broadcast it to the whole thing. We're sharing everyone's frequency here, and that's beauty for me. And to see, Laura and Maty put out the prayer products and expand that. It's my children growing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anybody got any questions while we have Andrew on about the grandmothers or any of the topics we're talking about today?
Yeah, because I can only stay about a half hour.
Well, one thing I've noticed, Andrew, with you getting to see behind the scenes, is that much like Bruce Lee taught, you're the master of fighting without fighting. I'm very much a fighter, and I've noticed that you do it without actually getting involved in an altercation. You allow people to fight themselves or to expose themselves without and all you've done is used peace. You used peace, and it's an incredible concept. How do you use peace to win a fight? Well, Andrew knows how to do it.
Exactly. How do you use peace to win a fight? So Dale, I have more other curiosities. So you during this medicine journey, obviously I was a marker stone to show your growth.
Yes.
Okay.
And you were on. So one of the journeys I had as well, I saw myself in Turtle Island, doing psychic surgery and doing trainings, having teaching people and so on. And a lot of you were there as well, and Andrew was there as a ceremonial leader, teaching people about timelines and different realities and so on. So there was all a big connection about how can we anchor this Turtle Island energy again, and how we're all, I'm not saying let's be Turtle Island, let's bring it back and so on, but I felt like it was the essence of having a community of peacekeepers and peacemakers and making this stand throughout time of emanating, being here, doing these shows, allowing us to learn ceremonial skills together, learn from each other, but not in a competitional way, not in a hierarchical order way. And they were showing me areas of psychic surgery where I need to be more responsible about bringing in the grandmothers and giving people connection to them again, because that's all they want. They want to be remembered. And there was like a very overwhelming love of how much they loved me. And I was like, even the children, I was like, well, my brain was like, well, they're my children, but they were like, no, you're our children. You're the child. Like, I was like there thinking I'm the father, like, oh, they're my kids. Like, no, love, you're our children. We're all your children. We're all children to each other, and so on. So there was like a bit of an ego death there with me, but an overwhelming knowingness of how much they loved me. And that the place I went to, Andrew, and you confirmed, well, you told me what it was a hub of interconnectivity. And the frequency and the high energy it was it's quite hard to put it into, bring it back and start writing a lot about it. It was such high frequency what I was seeing. Could you talk a little bit more about the hub of interconnectivity, Andrew?
All right, so the hub of interconnectivity is a place that I earned to be in. Earned and learned and relearned and earned and relearned over and over again about the responsibility of being in that place and to not come from it in a non-neutral state. It's very easy to enter the hub of interconnectivity with non-neutrality, polarity, and charge, but it'll send you on mind trails that never get resolved. Hub of interconnectivity from a sacred place of neutrality, emanating the peacekeeper and peacemaker, and you've earned a spot in the North Pole and earned a spot in the South Pole, learned and relearned why you've earned those spots. You allowed access to the 10,000 past generations and the 10,000 future generations. That is the hub of interconnectivity. 10,000 past generation goes 3 million years into the past and 3 million years into the future. The grand cycle of karma coming to resolution here. What's ended 3 million years ago ends today. What ends today ends 3 million years in the future. And there are many karmas that go 3 million years in the future. And it's the nature of the galactic ascension machine to no longer have karmas that go to 3 million years in the future. To limit it to 10, 12, 15 years, or in the state we're at now, many of these karmas that were 1 million or 2 million years into the future are now but a handful of days in the future. And those few affected by those million-year-old future karmas are beginning to realize they're going through an uncreational event. And many of them are coming back here to discover why. So that they understand that the changes their world will go through is just as important as the changes that this world goes through. And that the peacekeeper and peacemaker energy is what's grounding and harvesting the goodwill that is required to be in that hub of internet connectivity, and to say that all the future incarnators and post-incarnators, we must make a change out of a unique form of peace.
So is this the alternate timelines, Andrew, that are shutting down? Like when you're talking about the...
Coming to a natural karmic end is the better language.
Okay.
They no longer need to be that future. The infinite potentials has returned. And with the infinite potentials that return, those billion beings that are 3 million years in the future, they're quite advanced. And they realize they can go backwards and no longer have to experience that negative 3 million year timeline.
Oh, that makes
sense. But they will have unlearned all the wisdom from it. Because the peacekeeper and peacemaker frequency allows the possibilities of infinite potentials and learn and to retain what we've learned through the experience of infinite potentials.
So even though it comes to a natural end, the wisdom learned is still not forgotten.
It's wisdom earned and wisdom learned and wisdom earned. Yes.
Interesting.
So can you talk a little bit about the forgotten then, Andrew, because I had a lot in the journey itself about the remembered and the forgotten, and I know obviously the mandala effect and how that connects to it, because I did the mandala effect a lot of times, but after the journey I realized what it fully was about, and I was like, holy fuck. I was like so yep, there we go.
Have we forgotten our future? Have we forgotten our past? Is it fair to say we are a race with amnesia?
Yeah.
How do we get out of amnesia?
by remembering.
So a person who doesn't remember their ancestral past or their ancestral future, and they begin to remember, that which is forgotten is remembered. That
Yes.
which is remembered is the state of owning one's power by to go through the remembering, which is the awakening to the grander position where all of our past, present, and future lives simultaneously existing in the infinite potentials, and we get to come back with everything we've learned and earned from those other timelines. And the Mandela effect is back to now. So much of it is letting the ancestral Mandela effects of the other generations come to the table of peacekeepers and peacemakers and tell their stories. By telling of the stories in the hub of interconnectivity, we broadcast to everyone simultaneous the codes to remember. Your individual journey to remembering, with no one stepping on your individual journey to force a remembering. It's what you're ready for in your moment. And again, that's the peacekeeper, peacemaker energy guiding the hub of infinite potentials and infinite possibilities to be targeted to each individual for what they need in their personal growth.
Yeah, and it's a part of the process, isn't it, Andrew? Because unless you achieve a certain level of peace or that peacemaker, peacekeeper frequency, then the certain levels of awareness just aren't available to you, are they? You know, it complements the process and the remembering.
That's right.
It's all the groundwork.
So then, Andrew, would the grandmothers be the holders of a lot of that peacekeeper, peacemaker energy through the wisdom of their experience?
Well, their stories are what attracts them to the fire of the peacekeepers and peacemakers. Many of the grandmothers have been denied to access to the storyteller fire by ignorance. And when a peacemaker and peacemaker makes a fire that invites everyone equally, the grandmothers who are forgotten can be remembered. And it's their stories that change the journey back to infinite potentials, because we've forgotten the grandmother's stories.
Yes.
That's why the grandmothers are so vital in this journey. They need the peacekeepers and peacemakers to step forward in the times of the now.
Beautiful.
Okay? Peacekeepers and peacemakers are fueled by the grandmother's stories. The more stories the grandmothers bring, the more powerful the peacekeeper and peacemaker can be in that moment of now.
And it's interesting how many stories of the peacekeeper and peacemaker there are. Like, even if you look on Amazon and go into Native American stories and children's stories about spiders, turtles, there's fucking thousands of them. And I was reading some of the stories out about, like, there's a rainbow bird one and all these ones I bought, and I'm like, holy shit, like, the stories are bringing in the peacemaker frequency with the grandmothers of the remembering. And I'm like, yeah, it was a beautiful moment to really see that, and how important our words is, and what we're emanating to the world is, as kind of like anchorage to come this, not to come this way and follow us, but to come into a way of being a peacekeeper so we can change the world. And that's what the world needs at the moment, is everyone emanating themselves, no one else, and everyone stepping up to the plate of remembering by doing inner work, by doing trauma work, realizing all the shit we have wrong with us, laughing at it. I've still got loads of shit wrong with me I still work on, but always allowing that laughter and playfulness, but still that focus of we're going into the fifth world of peace, then eventually the sixth world of peace, and always having that as a vision of inspiration.
Yeah.
And it's
Now I can see why you suggested the prayer service, Andrew, because the prayer service has actually become our storytelling time,
Yes.
hasn't it?
Yes.
That's what it's become.
Yeah.
But it's also
Yeah.
an energy that people need.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
very
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Right. Now, just as equal to the grandmothers are the grandfathers.
yes,
In the Dragon Revocation, there's great-grandfather ancestral storyteller, and great-grandmother ancestral, one that wears the grandmother's shawl, holding the space for the infinite potentials of the future. Okay? As we begin to balance the grandmother energy that has been denied us for so long, the grandfathers will also return with a whole different layer of wisdom. Okay? The grandfathers are on a deeper level of forgetting than the grandmothers.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because we've been a patriarchy dominated society for too long. And to bring balance to that, the grandmothers must tip the scale back to even, so the grandfathers can be remembered. The grandfathers before patriarchy dominated the world. The ones who stayed in balance with their grandmothers. Their lovers of their time.
Well, it sounds like a story just when you speak it.
It does.
It just sounds like a beautiful
Yeah.
story.
And it shows how much patriarchy has damaged the men.
Yes.
Yes.
How much it's damaged everybody.
Yes.
And that's what I saw as well in the journey. Was it even went from the smaller scales of like my own ancestral karma and my avoidance to a bigger scale of avoidance, where I was seeing like UFC fighters come into my journey, and I was just seeing these ancient karmas being played out of war, all, you know, with boxers, with all this karma playing. And it was like a pretty funny moment seeing that on such a big scale, that in front of us there's always fighting, there's always battle, there's always patriarch kind of imprint. So they've been forgotten for so long because of that's what they wanted to imprint us with, this disconnection process, this war process, and so on.
And that was done by negative grandfathers coming in and teaching the young the rules of war before the rules of spirit.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's easier for me to do something like simple in the physical to absorb some of the larger concepts. So I'm trying to connect with my lineage and connect with my ancestors. Like I started doing cross stitch, just picking up kind of a dying art that my ancestors did and going through that physical process so that my DNA would kind of remember it. Is that one of the ways?
Absolutely. Pottery, cross stitching, making ceremonial clothing, learning how to cook.
Canning.
All of those things are to trigger the DNA into remembering.
Yeah, when I began weaving in the first, when I first ever began weaving, it was like a bone memory. I could just do it. I didn't have a clue why. I'd never even seen it do it. It was just there, and it brought so much richness to my life and so much connection to the grandmothers and to my ancestors. It's been a beautiful journey of learning.
And look how much joy it's given you.
Yeah.
So much.
Right. And how much more joy it will give you. It's infinite potential for you. And Jen, does cross-stitching represent infinite potential for you?
Yeah, and it brings part of my forgotten side back into the present, into being remembered.
Through Roth creativity of hand-eye fingers coordination. Okay? Which is the great creation in action. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, both of you share stitching, weaving as an energy. What's the next level for both of you?
For me, I've just planted a dye garden so that I can make my own plants to then dye the fiber and process the fiber. So that feels like a really potent alchemy because I can start from literally the seed, creating the fabric.
Okay.
What about
And
clothing
Jen, for
or
you?
blankets?
What's next level for you with that?
I think creating my family tree with needlework, because I like
Beautiful.
what Laura was saying about going back on our family tree. There's a lot of mystery about my lineage. So trying to figure
Beautiful.
that out and bring it in.
The fact that you made that creative leap into weaving your family tree, that's an ancient technique of heraldry. It was tapestries on the wall that did that. Okay? So you've tapped in to an ancestral talent of heraldry. Beautiful. That's going to repay you 1,000-fold.
The tapestries told the stories, didn't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
they told
Like
the
the
story.
Bayer tapestry.
It could be passed on for generations, become a sacred
And
object.
they were passed on for generations.
Yes.
And then everyone added their generational story to it.
After the psychic surgery training I did with Dale, I was guided by the grandmothers straight afterwards to weave both me and him a kind of like a woven amulet of silk. So sort of the first time I'm working with silk in this way to create like a protective kind of potent object, like really guided, like specifically from the grandmothers, with shapes that they intuit to put into it and something that can then be worn. So this is all like a new experiment, and I'm excited to see how it turns out, and excited to give it to Dale as well, to see how he feels it and how he can work with it himself.
Just so you know, Lily, you could start your own silkworm farm. Like they did
wow,
in the
that'd be
ancient
cool.
days.
Dartmoor
It's not
silk.
hard. Believe it or not, it's not hard. You can buy them all. You can buy your seeded thing and get your own silk.
Wow.
Dartmoor silk. How many people would buy that, Lily? Dartmoor silk.
Oh,
Incredible.
Yeah. Think of what you could do with your own silkworm farm.
Yeah, I mean, what an idea.
Infinite potentials and possibilities once again come to you. And when we recognize how ideas give us access to those infinite potentials and ideas, the rest is actualizing. What can I actually do with this in my frequency? What skill sets do I have now to bring it to reality? What resources in the now do I have to make it real?
So a year from now, we'll do another show, guys, and we'll all have silk clothes on. Call it the silk
I hope so.
show. Yeah.
We'll be really busy.
yes, you are.
So one last question about your ayahuasca journey that had me in it. How many versions of me did you see?
I'd probably say about 16. Yeah, quite a lot.
About 60?
16.
Okay.
Yeah, 16.
16?
Around about
Okay.
there, yeah.
I get around a lot, don't I?
Yes, you do.
How much do you think you get around?
Quite a bit. So when they were showing me about me, they were showing me my hands, and this is a question I wanted to ask you because it came up for me today. They were saying my hands are portal links back to the grandmothers, and I don't get what that fully meant. Does it give people linkage to, like, say if they're in a void space, I can give them an ancestral connection again? What was that?
So what they're saying is when your soul was born as the Dale I am, the grandmother energy escorted you into the womb and was a part of your infinite potential creation. That if you should choose through free will as a man to be a healer in a patriarchally dominated society that has heavily wounded male and heavily wounded female, that the grandmothers would be a source of one of your many sources of healing capacities. Okay? They're not your only source. They're one of many sources. But it would be the one that would guide you through the many free will choices to accept the healer within you. And yes, your hands are portals, but they're not just to the grandmothers. They can be a portal to the grandmothers, to the grandfathers, to the earth, the moon, the sun, the stars. It can be all of them. But each individual being needs their code to heal. They may just the grandmothers out of your left hand and ancestral balancing out of the right hand, or a combination of 1,000 different hands doing 1,000 different portals, which is your unique code you can create.
And a question connected to that. This goes back to my first reading. What I wanted to ask was, you said I can give people life reviews who haven't been given life reviews before. How the fuck do you do that? Like, do you connect to the hub of interconnectivity? Is it like you go and get it from there? I was kind of like, I remember listening to it the other week, and I was like, I need to ask Andrew that. I was like, I want to know a bit more about that.
So, some of the work we did on Lily was that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. It's what was not going to be resolved if she didn't go through this. As simple as that.
Okay.
So how does life reviewing help you as a healer? Well, you get to see their end if they don't fix it.
Wow. Yeah.
And what does it take to fix? What are all the mistakes they're going to make on that journey of not fixing it? Does that end that death process? Yes.
Yes.
That's why all death process can be avoided unless you come across a one that's inevitable, meaning the grandmothers and the grandfathers determine you have to come to an end because your work is going to be stronger on the other side. You have completed this I am's unique frequency purpose of impact into this world. Anything more is stepping on the journey of others.
And the question I'd like to
So
ask...
Lily, can you see what I'm saying? Yes.
Hearing you say that, I'm just feeling. I'm feeling quite emotional. In the remembering and huge gratitude for the now moment.
Okay. But could I have done that on my own without Dale? Probably not. All that work you guys did months before that, all the work you did in the Ralphing, all the work you did with Toby, that's what made that journey. I just came there and helped you get your cap and gown ceremony. Okay? You didn't fail your chemistry test, which would have made you have to repeat a year. That's it. Okay?
And it is an honor doing it. So as I've done some psychic surgery sessions with Andrew, it's fucking incredible. Because it's like having a guide there and just like asking a question, what's going on here? What's going on here? You know, you're doing it right.
Well, we added our vision together. Okay? The three of us had a trinity, what I call a trinity of vision. Okay? That means we're essentially seeing everything. Okay? I could see through you, I could see through her, and both of you could see through me because I was sharing that. And that's what allowed and created the moment where the welding rod came out. I didn't know that was going to come out, but that's what was needed. That was the shared energy of, all right, this will make sense to her in the moment. You know, and then Dale pulls out a welding rod and a mask and starts welding her back together. Okay? And then the energies you experienced through that. The language made sense to you, which then triggered your placebo to go into super overdrive and show you the journey of healing, which was then revealed by the white light reality. And a week later, you were in the Alps.
Yeah, that was amazing.
A week later, you were in the snowy Alps. Okay?
Wow.
You've got crickets, Dale.
It's just processing that. I'm just like... Wow.
Well, guys, I actually got to go. I've got another session I got to get to. I just wanted to pop in here and drop my 73 cents.
You've dropped some crickets, brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
You gave us about $20 in the end.
There you go. All right, guys, you go have a great show. We'll talk soon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
care.
See you later.
Thank you.
Oh, so we'll say 5 minutes left of the show just to kind of let's go around everyone and how we're feeling, how's the show, and what it's done for you, and some of the words you want to add as well to bring your own expression from what Andrew's just said. It's brought me into a lot of processing. So we'll begin with Laura. How are we doing? How is this show for you, sister?
Oh, fantastic. And it's always an added bonus when Andrew is on, isn't it? And brings his beautiful, unique frequency to it. And I think I was saying to you today, Dale, about one of my focuses now is really about emanation of that peacemaker frequency, keeper frequency, and being that celestial medium of peace that creates that. And working more with the grandmothers. I mean, I was so inspired by your journey, and your trip with with Aya. Obviously, I've done that as well. So it sort of felt like I could combine those, and it's given me, really re-inspired me to call the grandmothers round the fire. And actually, for my own my own grandmothers as well, working with some of the work I'm doing at the moment, calling in my own grandmothers. And it is amazing the potency of the energy you feel when you start engaging that in a sacred way. So, yeah, and it's been fabulous sharing that with everybody in the chat and everybody who came on today. So thanks to Jen, who's just gone, and lovely to have you on, Lily, and Mary.
Thank you.
My old friend from mentorship, and obviously my brothers Maty and Dale. So it's been a fabulous, fabulous show. Thank you.
And an honouring to you, sister, that we all place our hat off to you, because you are a grandmother in every way of the remembering, and you're bringing songs and prayers of the remembering to those who need it. And the Sunday prayer is an example of that, of how important that frequency is, and you resonate it. And as well, is there any, so do you do mentoring, Laura, or is there any
from the promotional point of view?
Yeah, just to kind of connect it to it, because you have so much knowledge about how to connect to the grandmothers, and anybody wanting to connect to them more and have an understanding of the ancestral lineage, I highly recommend getting Laura and having a session with Laura, because she has innately knowingness and she emanates that peacekeeper frequency as well.
Thanks, Dale. Yes, I certainly am an ancestral medium, and we can do work. It's not work. We can do joy on that, and work together and co-create together for your ancestors. And one-to-one sessions. It's all on Two Feathers Medicine, or shamanic training, anything like that. Love to do it, love doing it. So thanks a lot. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you, sister. And Maty, hello, brother.
Yo. So, in reflection to the show, I think this is a wider reflection than just this show as well. I don't know if you, Dale, but things that Andrew has been saying for a long time that made sense, but now I'm seeing it manifested. And now, there's so many things, like being the sum total of all of our lives, past, present and future, and the way this culminates in this journey that we're on now as the peacekeepers, peacemakers in the great remembering, and the fact that my own remembering is beginning to expand as well. So just, I don't know, there's, every time I listen to Andrew speak just recently, there's more layers, but that's not quite the right way to say it. I don't think it's layers. I think it's more of an experiential knowingness of what he's been talking about all this time, if that makes sense. Yeah. And if anybody wants a private session with me, my private sessions can be anything from coaching to psychic surgery and anything in between. A lot of the time, I will do both. Because as everybody knows, a lot of people just get stuck into what is self-work. And it's quite easy for us as psychic surgeons to show you what self-work is whilst we are working on you at the same time. So I've got the private sessions. Go to twofeathersmedicine.com, and I'm a light language specialist. So I've got a basic light language course for anybody that doesn't speak it, with some other courses on the way and some other products there as well. So yeah, twofeathersmedicine.com.
Thank you, brother. And Mary?
Yes, I think the whole show was fabulous. It was lovely to talk about the energy of the grandmothers, actually. It was lovely to talk about it with all of you. And it does leave me with that whole feeling of the peacemakers and the peacekeepers. And as Andrew was talking, I was just thinking, to myself at the time about my journey and in relation to holding the peace. And when I held it and how that worked, and when I didn't, how that worked. And it was an interesting insight actually into my own journey. It was like a little mini life review that I got into there while he was talking. And always, when I didn't, it was when I lost my center to some extent, and I got a little bit rattled, and the outcome would never be as good for me or for anybody else. So it's just my own insight into that, about how important that is for me, because I know that I'm a very peace-loving person, as we all are. I'm no different to anybody else. But it's just being more aware maybe of how I can hold that and how I can nurture that and how I can. It's okay holding it when you're at peace, but holding it when you're challenged and when you're in a that's when it's difficult. And I have done it, and I think it's a good thing to look back on and recognize when we did it and how well it worked, because it's like counting the victories. And I think that as a grandmother, I think that that's something that I'm leaving the show with. I'm leaving with that feeling of, I'm going to count my victories, because I have reached a certain age at this part in time, and I have a lot of learning and a lot of experience. And it's something to value, the times I failed and the times I didn't, and were they really failures? I don't know. But that's what I'm leaving it with. And thank you all for helping me to arrive at that spot, actually.
Thank you, Mary. You certainly
sister.
emanate the grandmother energy.
Oh, thank you, Laura, as you do.
We'll all dance in the Aurora Borealis in 100 years and just laugh at each other.
Yeah,
we are.
Fuck it, let's do it tonight.
Let's do it.
We'll do it tonight, Dale. We'll do it tonight.
Yes. And Lily.
Yeah, I think just following on from what Mary said, and definitely through this conversation, having kind of a life review as well, and reflecting on how great it feels and how wonderful and ecstatic it feels when you are aligned with the peacemaker and peacekeeper, and when you are on the ancestral, walking in the footsteps of your ancestors and really following that pathway, how beautiful that feels. So when you come down from that feeling, it feels even worse. And it's a really big sign to get back up there. So just reflecting on that actually, once you have experienced the true ecstasy of being in that place, you can never forget that. So you only need it one time and you'll always go back. So thank you all. I'm really thankful for this conversation.
Thank
Beautiful sister, the weaver.
Yes, weaving your magic.
Weaving your magic. And that just a really short, going back to one of the journeys as well, the funniest thing ever, before I went into the hub of interconnectivity, the home of the grandmothers, a spider came on me before I drank, like crawled onto me, and it was making its way over from the other side of the room, and I was like, fucking hell, it's coming over to me. And everyone was about to take it, and I was like, I'm going to have to take this spider out, guys, one sec. While everyone was started, and I was like walking with the spider and put it down, I was like, fucking hell.
It always signifies...
Go ahead, man.
Not always, but quite a lot, it signifies to me, because I get spider come onto my altar quite a lot when I'm doing ceremonies, and they'll just come and just sit there and just watch me make tea. And for you, she's the weaver of the dreams, right? So usually when grandmother spider's there, I know that there's a new dream being wove.
Beautiful.
She also wrote the first words, and often she comes across my keyboard. Yes. Anyway, fantastic show. Thanks everyone. Thanks Lily. Thank you Mary.
And if anybody would like as well, psychic surgery sessions and past life regression training. So I do past life regression training at the moment on a one-to-one basis, which includes 3 sessions and 3 sessions into past life itself. I learn and teach you how to understand trauma and how it connects to past lives, and how to resolve from this lifetime to other lifetime traumas. So if you feel like you've got a lot of stuff you want to work on in this present life and connect to the past life and resolution, basically, go onto daletobin.com and drop us a message, or if you want to learn psychic surgery or have a psychic surgery session itself. And I just want to say I love you guys, and this is an honouring and an incredible show, and how much effort everyone has put into themselves here, and those watching. We honour you as ancestors as well, and we thank you for listening, supporting this show as well, and just the many avenues and the many directions we're going to go into, because we go into the unknown with love, with strength, with trust, with source connection. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us on this Talking Stick show. And those watching in the future, please put a comment of how you enjoyed the show, any questions, and drop a like and a share as well. Aho,
like and vibe. Aho, motherfuckers.
And just a quickie, I do individual sessions, not just courses. I do individual sessions. Okay, thanks, Dale, for that.
And also as well, which I forgot, Laura, so do you want to talk about the show on Thursday, Laura, which is coming up, and I will post up a picture.
Can you remind me what it is, Dale?
You'll be able to read off the poster for you. There we go.
It's the UFO native people.
Okay. Brilliant. Yeah, and I'm back, my turn Sunday for the prayer service. So we'll do some more storytelling.
So tune in on Thursday, guys. Bless
Yeah,
you.
thanks a lot.
And see you soon.
I hope.
I hope.